worked at a really small company actually. It's called United Bioscience. It's in Menlo Park, California, which is kind of the Bay Area for everyone who doesn't know. There's actually a whole bunch of companies. I wish I had a map of all of just companies in this area, and a lot of them, like, are especially the giant ones, do offer like housing and stuff like that. So if you do like the Bay Area, I know some of the big companies do offer housing, which is like I think Google is like somewhere in there, Facebook somewhere in there, and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's a company, they make, it's a class 1 non-sterile medical device for scar treatment. And so it's like this plastic, kind of like paper book thing, and it has a predetermined stretch of it's a dressing. And so you take the flap of it and you flip it upside down, and it gets stretched, and you place it over the scar. That provides relief at the scar. It helps it heal faster and then look better over a certain amount of weeks. And so they have 3 different sizes. Usually, like pregnancy, C-section were probably our biggest clients, and people with plastic surgery, especially, we didn't want the scar visible as much. So that was interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna take a little step. So I did a lot of like CAD work and stuff like that, but I just kind of want to touch on the like big versus small, especially it's like Jabil and HP, which are like mega ginormous in mine, which is like maybe 50 employees. And so you do, like there are trade-offs in both. And so the small company, I got to do a whole lot more just because it was more of like a family kind of setting instead of like a corporate workplace. But I don't get the, benefit of saying I worked at HP or Jabil. And so there are trade-offs between the certain types. So to kind of just re-emphasize, so I actually worked there 2 summers. So my first summer's on the left of kind of stuff I did, kind of a mind map kind of format. And so it was a lot of R&D, go, no-go gauges, which are just kind of checking for dimensions of stuff, and then modifying CAD drawings, and then working with some of the operation and manufacturing stuff, with like keeping track of scrap rates and doing some number crunching for that. And then my second summer, I did a whole lot more. Actually, a lot more on the project management side. I got to actually be in charge of a product, and so that was really cool, which probably would not have happened if I were at a ginormous company. Because that is one thing to think about while you kind of look for companies. Yeah, so just kind of re-emphasize. Just an R&D project. If you guys are looking or thinking about going to R&D. It's not all CAD work. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into it. I wish maybe was my junior, sophomore year, maybe got a little more in depth about maybe the FDA documentation, the kind of design, verification, and validation, which are 2 different things if you don't know, which you should go read and find out. And then just some of the things I took away. So my boss, actually in the top left, kind of icon logo drawing, he said, so just so you know, when I was your age, I have my boss say, hey, say you're a VP or a head, or say you're in charge of something, because that way when you reach out to companies, they'll be way faster, and they frankly don't have the time to help interns. And so I actually tried this. So I sent one company, hey, I'm an intern, I'm trying to get some spec data stuff for this type of silicone, yada, yada, yada. And so then I do a same email, but to a different company. So I was hey, I'm a VP, we're looking for some stuff for a new project. What do you think? Can we get some spec sheets? It was the next day, a phone call, hello, Mr. Murphy. And I was totally a big difference. So try and ask your, I don't know. Thankfully, my boss told me about it, so he was totally fine with me. So I wasn't the intern, I was the head of new initiatives. So make up some sort of fake name, but legit sounding, so it sounds, but it's not head of engineering, so they find out you're not the head of engineering. But they're kind of beat the dead horse, but there's always a strong disconnect between the lab and the engineering. And so just it's an important reminder to actually go see what you're making and not just especially I don't know, in school it could be Josh Park is kind of the lab for the 3D printing stuff. And so when he received the file from me, we have to figure out if it's my file or something with the printer. And so there's just always a disconnect, and so that's kind of to put it in perspective of like today's school. So the good engineer goes alongside with the lab and gets into it and tries to understand what their constraints are, not just like you pushing on them. And then kind of another thing my boss really helped me with was advancing questions for meetings. And so it sounds like simple, but it's actually pretty helpful, especially for like introverted people like myself. I like to have knowing things in advance. So like what questions I'm going to ask someone. And so I sent a bunch of questions and things I wanted to cover to the meeting, so get it faster. So like if they had some, I don't know, some demo device, they didn't have to go run to their office, go get it, and stall for the meeting time. They could just bring it to all like before the meeting. So that saved a bunch of time, especially after the meetings. You can always send like, hey, I got this from our meeting, XYZ. Is there anything I missed? And that's also really helpful because that puts it in usually in email form, so you can find it back and not try to like, what did I say? Or what did we say? And so that helps with like traceability, and like if you do actually miss something in the meeting that they say, like, oh yeah, you forgot about Q. I was like, oh yeah, thank you so much. And so those are two things like it's not really taught in school, but like are very, very valuable in the workplace. And then lastly, you can always call someone, and that's great for like quick info, but it like sucks because when you're like calling someone and then like someone comes interrupts you and you try to do something, you can like kind of forget. And so emails are great because they have the traceability, like you can just copy and paste what they say to your whole team, but that may take a day or a week sometimes. And so it's like knowing when to use what form of communication really helps. Oh yeah, and then just some other stuff. I think my sophomore year I started this. This is just a snippet, but I've been keeping track on like a Google sheet, the company, like the URL, and just kind of actually some, like wherever I applied and kind of the date I submitted the application. And so then I could see, or remember obviously, like the URL especially is helpful, if it's like Indeed or the actual job link site, which helps. The contractor referred, so like, my dad helped me with this. So he said, hey, there's sometimes going to be, we're going to know someone in the company, but it'll always be the person like there may be a middleman to like you knowing this person. And so like, my parents were a lot of referrers to like their friends and like still working and stuff. And so it was good to keep track of like who introduced you to who, so that way you could like come back to them as well and thank the referrer as well. And then yeah, the date submitted is really helpful. And just this helps a lot because you're like, oh, I'll remember it, and especially with the like the username and the password for some of those things, you're like what did I put? You know, like jobs 1, 2, 3, stuff like that. So that like I'm really thankful my dad like showed me this. He's like, oh yeah, just keep it in a spreadsheet. Like it may sound silly and like like of course I'm gonna remember this, but it also actually helps. Like I think I started this my sophomore summer. Freshman summer, and so I was actually able to go back for the next summer, so like go back to see where I applied. Like, oh yeah, I don't have to like research or like find companies again. I have like a list of like, I have like 30 lists, and like all of them said no, So don't get discouraged either, because like you're gonna have to find like a whole lot of them and see who says yes. Oh yeah, and then sorry, this link I found. Hopefully I can show you guys all, but you can take a picture of it. Biofarm guys, I don't know why the website is called that, but they have, like, I just found, they have all the companies that are in California that have some sort of relation to, like, biotech or, like, medical device. And then these guys have actually gone through and kind of dissected who kind of does what and where they are, which can be super helpful for if you know what you want to kind of do, or know where you kind of want to go, and then look at companies. I think they kind of vary in size, but that gives you a great starting point instead of like, whenever I go on Indeed, I get hits for like senior software position. I'm like, what? So this is helpful if I'll share it with you guys. Oh, yeah, sorry. So the other thing you guys can do, like, One of my parents' friends told me, if you have an interest in something, so like say it's bioimaging, and you maybe not necessarily can't do that like at the moment, but you can very well like start like researching and getting more and more about it to see if you actually like it, or like you want to like you're just curious about it. And so I think I got really into 3D printing freshman sophomore year. And so my dad was like, oh, you should make a blog so that way you can like it actually kind of show, instead of you just saying, oh yeah, I know a lot about 3D printing, because I'm like, okay, but like if you write some sort of like blog or like some sort of like just kind of essay even, you can always put that in like the cover, like link to the website or article, however you want to do it, in your resume or in the cover letter. And I actually had one person like looked at it like, oh, that's pretty cool, like, and then you start asking questions. And so it just helps to like break the barrier in some other way too. And so, but it's important that like, I thought I knew a lot about 3D printing. And then like junior year of class, Josh Park comes in and is like, by the way, there's some other thing. Like, oh wow, like, so you really never stop learning. So it's just another one thing to remember. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah.